Yeah, so thanks for coming along. I think it's a really interesting topic. So it's around for a lot of companies. I'm going to put up my hand. Being an events company in a pandemic has not been an ideal situation. um, but from your perspective, we're going to learn about how it actually became an opportunity and the challenges also that come with that opportunity. So first of all, could you give people a quick introduction or an overview of what CoachHub is, just to get some context about what we'll be talking about here?
Sure, happy to do so. So, Coachup is a digital coaching company. So, we basically provide digital coaching, so video sessions with coaches and learning content to exploit the greater you. Yeah, so we do that worldwide. So, we have offices in Berlin, in actually almost every European capital, but also New York and Singapore, etc. And actually, our vision is to democratize coaching. So far, personal coaching have been only a thing for the big bosses around the world. And we think it has way more effect when you can also bring it down to lower management levels. And by easing up the accessibility and the availability of coaching via video chats, of course, we can lower prices and therefore make it available also for lower management levels.
Great. And so before we jump into the pandemic, let's go back early 2020. That's when you joined CoachHub. What were your challenges back then? What was the landscape like then? And then we'll move into the pandemic after that.
Yeah, so you mentioned it already, right? So feels like ages ago because it was actually before the pandemic, actually shortly before the pandemic. Our product in the platform we are currently using was 4 months live at that point of time. Yeah, so we can say we have been in the minimum viable product stage. So ahead of us, there was this scaling phase and bringing it to the next level. So basically, we were really focusing on bringing digital coaching to the market. And before the pandemic, and this is why it sounds like ages ago, we needed to convince the people that coaching is possible via video chat. Yeah, people didn't believe us, and we really needed to do a research and also a lot of convincing talks to say, of course you can. You can do almost everything remotely, and you have the same efficiency in coaching via video chat versus a real traditional offline coaching. Plus, it's not that long ago, but it was before the pandemic. So most of the, especially traditional companies, their employees have not been equipped for video chats and quality. Yeah, so we needed to help them with install the webcams, install the right firewall settings, etc. And that basically is absolutely blown away from now. We don't have any of these talks anymore. This is one of the, for our business, positive effects of the pandemic.
Great. And talk me through then what happened. So everybody had confusion March last year, didn't know what was happening. Talk us through your journey through that period.
Yeah, so basically, roughly 2 months after I started, the pandemic started, and also for us, being heading into a Series B, and we were aiming to have a Series B roughly 2021 or something. We needed to establish our business at the market to get some bigger players to also show our investors that it is a sustainable business. At the same time, nobody knew how the world economic situation will be within and after the pandemic. So basically, everybody was super nervous, and we're using HR budgets for our business. And usually, these kinds of budgets are easily cut out in a crisis, right? Okay, cut the training budget, cut the well-being budget. We don't need that. We now need to focus on keep our business running. So what we did, and we were needed to do, is we ask our employees to voluntarily reduce their working hours and accept a smaller salary for a couple of months. Yeah, so it was that situation. But actually, shortly after that, and a lot of actually all employees did it. We figured out that something else happens, because especially the Fortune 500 and the big corporate players that have been our main target group recognize that now that it is such a special moment of the economic might turn into a crisis, while everybody was facing completely new work environments, working remotely, being forced to work remotely. They have accepted that and invested in helping their employees managing this crisis economically, but also this new stress situation we all felt by working in the middle of our family rooms. Yeah, so we figured out pretty fast that after 3 months of almost no budgets or deals signed, because also our clients were waiting for what happened, we saw a positive trend. So we could put back all our employees into full work mode in August already. And from there, actually, all this education tech, especially the areas of education tech that takes care for work-life balance, for employee well-being, for employee retention, for new formats of training, really got a momentum, because the standard traditional HR training basically is not existing. It's still not existing, really. It slowly ramps up, but it's absolutely blown away. So that was kind of, by luck, somehow made us being one of the companies that have benefit from the pandemic. But actually, for a very positive reason, because you should see the user feedback of our users. We really help them managing the crisis, and they're super happy, especially the ones that follow our vision of democratized coaching, where people have a touch point with coaching for the very first time of their life. So usually it's life-changing, and that was also a big booster for our business during the pandemic.
Great. So you mentioned kind of at the start, you joined, the product was maybe 4 months live. It was still, as you described, it's still the MVP. Mm-hmm. So you've now realized that actually this is a great opportunity. You're getting a lot of interest. What happens from a product perspective? How did your system handle this influx?
First of all, you get super nervous, right? So, because actually we had 2 development teams, 2 product managers at that point of time, and they have been organized basically, well, in some feature queue. We have been in the middle of groundwork where we needed to fix basic things, getting down the video error rates, enabling the right time zones in the calendar bookings, all that super basic stuff that doesn't earn you more money, but delivers a minimum viable product experience. Yeah, so at that point of time, I decided, first of all, we need a solid roadmap planning, and we need a solid ownership of the different artifacts in the platform. So far, the development teams and the product managers have jumped from feature to feature. Okay, we now fix the calendar thingy. Then we might implement dial-in numbers and these kind of feature factory nightmare. So what we did is we created persona teams. So we had then a dedicated product management team for coaches, for coaches, and for company, which are our 3 main user groups. Why? Of course, you can slice and dice product and tech teams differently in user journey, acquisition, activation, retention, or technical artifacts, search results, checkout flow, order flow, or whatever. Yeah, we decided to do it by persona because digital coaching is to a big extent somehow a green field when it comes to digital solutions. So what I wanted my team to be, become real experts in the pain point of the users, because we have been then in a journey from an MVP to something what we call the MLP, the minimum lovable product. So what is a product that makes us proud and makes our clients recommend us to others? Because we wanted to expand our business. And for that, and especially when having only 3 teams at that point of time, so we added the 1 full company, you need to heavily focus. Yeah. So, and that's why you need to understand what are the key pain points you need to cross out first to improve the satisfaction with your product. When I started, the Net Promoter Score have been at 23. Because we have been in this MVP and not much more than that mode. Now, last month we are at 72. So we really invested in actually 2 work streams. One was do the right things, and the other one was do the things right.
Great. So there's a couple of different things there that I want to jump into. So you mentioned your kind of tech debt at the start there, your calendar things not working, and a few of those kind of bugs and problems with your MLP or your MVP. And then you mentioned, okay, so you went with this structure of different teams. Mm-hmm. How did you balance the 2? So you have to pay down this kind of technical debt, but yes, you want to be that vision of like, what can we do for our different personas and owning it? How did the teams manage that? And how did you, as the chief product officer, make sure the teams weren't going too far in one direction?
So first of all, on the tech side and also to manage tech debt, we moved the platform from a monolithic environment to microservice architectures to be more able react flexible on different use cases. Because when we analyze the pain points within the different persona teams, we actually had one principle from business reason, which was fix first what does not scale. Yeah. And the other one was fix what makes our users unhappy. And by building these two feature streams, actually on every feature or new functionality we wanted to build, we needed to take a build or buy decision. Yeah. So what is really our core value proposition, our core DNA as a digital coaching company? And what is maybe better being bought by a third-party vendor? For example, of course, we want to provide a chat functionalities between coach and coaches, but we are a coaching company, and there are hundreds of companies out there that provides awesome chat functionalities in a white label format. Things like that. Yeah. On this technical setup, as I said, switching to this microservice architecture enabled us to get rid of monolithic legacy code and replace it by maybe new ones or bought ones.
Great. So that was kind of on the tech side. So
yeah.
On the kind of the other side, those teams that are now those kind of product teams that are empowered around delivering for a particular persona, very impressive NPS improvements. How did those teams, how were they structured in order to be able to, as you say, identify what's making the customers angry, or rather identifying what will make the customers happy?
So first of all, our product is more than our platform. So we have an awesome services and operations team, dedicated service managers for coaches and coaches. And there we have business partners, and we basically made the product manager and the business partner in the coaches success team or in the coaches success team being work coupled somehow, right? So they have been closely aligned because this service team is talking to coaches or coaches every day, 8 hours. So they know the customer. They extremely understand the problem space of them. Then we hired additional functionalities, UX research, to really create structured data of this numerous client contacts, right? So basically, we have doubling down and analyzing the key problems in using our current platform to identify the things we should need fix first to create the biggest effect on customer satisfaction. So we added basically to UX researchers, we added a dedicated UX designer to each team to really significantly improve the user experience. Yeah. Next to it, we doubled down in user tracking when it came to NPS. So we had an NPS survey. We established a couple of other metrics like a company health score, collecting engagement metrics, but also satisfaction metrics. We implemented more feedback cycles in the product. So, for example, we are asking after every session, we are asking the coachee on different levels about the satisfaction with the coach, with the relationship, with the coaching content. So we at least for an MVP to MLP phase, we have gained a pretty good knowledge of what we need to improve.
Excellent. And how, because you mentioned kind of hiring and recruiting, and that's a lot of growth, and you yourselves were probably working remotely as well. So talk me through just how much have you grown, and then how have you managed that growth?
Yes. So as I said, we started to have two teams. We added another one for the third persona company, but very soon we figured out that's even not enough. We are growing so fast. These teams have been and sometimes still are fully booked with business enablement. And sometimes as a product manager, you then have to make this hard trade-off decisions between business growth and strategic feature development. Yeah, and we're a startup, right? So we need to make the money to pay our employees next quarter. So often enough, we needed to make business decisions instead of strategic decisions. That's why we added additional teams to the setup that take off this business growth pressure from the bandwidth and, for example, a client solutions team. So a team that does nothing else than adjusting or adopting our platform functionalities to the needs of our clients. We added a additional learning solutions team that is taking care for the time in between the coaching sessions. 75% of the knowledge you learn new is forgotten after 5 days if you don't utilize it. So we created an own team that takes care for, I think in other verticals you would call it engagement features. Yeah, which is important for the next maturity level of a product to create environments that keeps your users using you more. Yeah, next to that, we also establish an additional platform team that is doing nothing else than microservice architectures. So basically keeping off this monolithic legacy pain from the core development teams.
Great. So huge number of people. How did you as a company, when companies go through that hyper kind of growth phase, it can be very difficult to stay aligned, and particularly if you're trying to onboard that many people, get them up to speed. How did you manage that as a company?
First of all, as a company that sells video coaching, our people team really doubled down in having an awesome remote onboarding processes with a lot of webinars, with a lot of teachable courses to get into the game, right? So we onboard our employees very, very well. Next to it, as you mentioned already, we are a remote first company. So in my team, actually, the people can work wherever they want to work. I don't care. They just need to have solid Wi-Fi and should be available within European working hours. And that made us being also very attractive as an employer, not only because we have an awesome product that delivers purpose to employees worldwide, but also about due to this flexibility. Yeah. How do we do that? As I said at the beginning, we had two main work streams. One was doing the right things. I mentioned that a little bit. And the other one was doing the things right. So what we did is, of course, we used our own technology. So every of our employee has their own coach, but also other psychometrics to identify the team strengths and the team weaknesses and train us not as individuals, but also as a team in there. Additionally, I decided to hire a completely new role. Actually, I'm working with it for the first time in my career, but I love it, a product operations manager. That is doing nothing else than having a supportive role in all the processes, the ceremonies, the plannings to keep more bandwidth for the creative part of being a product manager to the product managers, and being a supporting role when it comes to design sprint workshops, preparing these kind of things, reviewing this kind of things, supporting with roadmap planning templates, etc. So the supporting role really makes a difference because it lets the product manager focus on their craft.
Great. No, I love the use of using your own products. So it's great to see, and I love because everybody in your organization as a coach, they're dog fooding their own products so they can feel the pain as well. That's it.
Absolutely. So they all test our product every day, right? So, but that's honestly, that is not our main intention, right? So it's also, we pay our coaches. So also for the sessions with our employees. So it's a significant invest also of company money into our employees. But of course, yes, therefore we get bugs maybe fast. So our employees see our bugs earlier than our clients usually, right? Which is a nice side effect of it.
Great. I want to jump back to two different teams. You mentioned the client solutions and the learning solutions. So client solutions, as you said, you're kind of customizing your platform for the needs of different companies. And this is a problem I hear a lot of startups, that they've got a couple of big clients and then the clients start demanding particular features, but there's a risk associated with that you become too specific to particular main clients. So how do you balance that as a product officer to make sure that you're meeting the needs of those big clients, but also making sure that you're still focusing on your main product and not building a custom solution?
Very good question. So first of all, this was one of the items when I said we needed to fix first what does not scale, right? Rolling out a customized program, so a program that is customized to the company values of a big client, has taken 8 weeks per client at the beginning. Yeah, so that means basically I can do 2 customization programs per quarter with one team. That is not enough. So we invested in streamlining this process, in building dedicated modules. So really significantly simplified the way and the need for developer and product manager attention in rolling out customization products. It was a very unpopular decision to invest in that in Q1, but now we are down to 4 days per customization program, which is significantly less. And we created a dedicated team because this context switch of, hey, there's this one new big client, we need to win them, please drop your roadmap and do this, is an absolutely nightmare for every development and product team. That's why we created a dedicated team that is actually working more in an agency mode than our standard core development teams. Yeah.
Great. No, that's great insight. And the other one was around the learning solution. So I love the point, and I'm a big advocate of that kind of staged repetition in order to learn something. But is every coaching session not in a way unique? So how do you tackle that challenge in a product perspective of you want this solution that's generic enough that you can roll out for everybody, but on the other hand, all of their coaching sessions are unique in ways?
Absolutely. So our core belief is that the coachee is defining the coaching goal, right? So you're absolutely right. And the individual goals are very unique. But usually these goals, especially if it's embedded in a business coaching environment, follow some categories. So we work together with a couple of universities and do a really intense research. For example, our senior vice president coaching, Jonathan Passmore, is actually one of the superstars and authors of coaching books, and director of the Henley Business School that do science on coaching. We have other science board members that do science on coach-coach relationship. So we think a science-backed environment helps us, being very specific while being able to work in categories. So we have a strengths assessment on our platform that lets you identify what could be the areas you can be coached on. And you can select focus areas within. And we come with our own coaching framework, developed together with our science board members. And you find categories like stress resilience, emotional regulation, time management. So you have 2 main categories: grow as a person and inspire as a leader. And that actually fits to almost most of the learning and development cases. With its 19 subcategories. And I can tell you, especially during the pandemic, the 2 most selected focus areas are exactly that: emotional regulation and time management. So these are then the buckets you can design learning content on, and you can also design our content recommendation engine on, right? So we read the goal settings within our product, and we see what kind of content is used to overcome these goals. Our coaches can recommend learning content to coaches, and we measure in a self-rating the progress on, for example, time management. I rate myself on a 7, and 2 months later, I rate myself on a 9. And we use this data to recommend content that was used within that journey to other coaches of your kind.
Great. So is there a bit of machine learning kind of going on in the background to crunch all of that data?
Exactly. So we have we have 2 teams that tackle that. One is our BI team that is exactly working on 2 main algorithms. The one is the algorithm, which I sometimes oversimplify with coach dating. So what questions do we need to ask to find the best matching coach for you? Yeah. And the other algorithm is exactly what learning content can we provide by knowing your learning goals. And we have our own content team that is writing this content, but we also work with content partners like Harvard Business Review to provide qualitative learning content to them based on their learning goals.
Great. So I'm just going to shift tack back now to a little bit about growth. So, because we're talking about growth during the pandemic, you did raise a bit of funding, and you were saying you've now started moving into the acquisition space as well as just organic growth. How did you decide to go down that route, and then how has that been for you as a company?
Thanks for asking. Yes, so after the pandemic, or due to the momentum of the pandemic, our series became way faster and way higher than we actually was hoping for. That was already good, and that gave us a little bit of money to also react on the momentum. There are a lot of players around us that trying to participate on that momentum, and we figured out a couple of players in a very analytical way again, that we always pitch against. Yeah. So we always have been in competitive pitches with a couple of companies. One of them have been Move One from France. At some point we said, why compete? Why can't we collaborate? These folks do this business since 6 years, which is exactly almost 4 years more than we do. So they do something right, and they own the French market. So we can make our lives hard, or we collaborate. So at some point we used the money then to acquire them, and we figured out that, of course, before we acquired them, we did a due diligence, and in this due diligence we figured out that actually our products are very complementary. So while we have been invested heavily in the scalability and the global footprint of our product, they have been, while being a French player, invested in the user experience for HR business partners, in the user experience and functionalities for coaches. And therefore, it made absolutely sense. The weaknesses of us have been their strengths and vice versa. And that's why we decided that actually we can be stronger together. Yeah. Now it is maybe that, anticipating your next question, what do we do now? What we currently do is we create customer journeys per persona with jobs to be done, and compare the different feature sets. So what is great in the Move One user experience? What is great in a Coachup user experience? And what might be the blind spots where there are jobs to be done in the personas that neither nor are served well enough from the two platforms? From that, we kind of find some user journey heat map, where to invest first in merging these two environments into something better.
And from a cultural, the individuals in those companies, how have you found that a kind of a cultural melding of the two companies?
So first of all, we are in the very beginning. We just acquired them in August, right? But what we did actually is we demoed our products to each other. Yeah. And the product managers of Move One have demoed it to our product managers, and vice versa. And you could see the momentum within these sessions where, oh wow, that's actually a great idea. Why have we never talked about that way? And that happened on both sides, right? And that's why we also have chosen this user journey mapping now to compare the functionalities of the platforms, and not just the plain spreadsheet where you say, okay, Coachup can download PDFs, Move One can download PDFs. It's not about who's better or weaker at some point. It's about who is serving our users better on a specific job to be done. And because with that, our employees recognize what we have recognized in the due diligence already, the complementarity of the products. That was very visible. And that's why we had a very good cultural start, actually.
Excellent. Well, we are just out of time. I could keep chatting for ages, but thank you for sharing all of your insights on growth during a pandemic. And I hope everybody out there enjoyed the conversation as well. So thank you once again, Jens.
Thanks, Rory, for inviting me. I'm happy to chat again.
Yeah, if anybody has any more questions, please put them into Slack, and Jens will be there to be able to answer them as well.